Hi everyone, today I'm here with Richard Opie. How are you?
Good, thanks. How are you, Ed?
Yeah, I'm great, and I've just come here to interview Richard Opie at his man cave, and I'd like to start off a question. How did you first get into motorsport?
Long story, actually. A bloke put me onto a car which is actually here in the shed now. It's a GC8 WRX that was for sale in Bendigo, and so once I got that, I did a few things to it. Just started doing track days effectively, and then a mate of mine, Tony Groves, who's got Mornington Mazda, and Tony's been well known around the race circuit. He's started off in an RX7 improved production, and he got me into the improved production side with my RX8, which I happen to have a car. And initially I thought I'd just build a track car, and then got talked into going the full circuit racing path, which has been awesome. So, and the best part is the car I bought to start with, the little Subaru, I've just sold back to the guy who I purchased it from for his family. So it's really good story.
Yeah, and you said you bought the Subaru as your first car. How did you progress up into your next category? Was there much decision making? And
yeah, a lot. I had to build a car, so that was I had a stock RX8, which I just happened to buy at the time for not bad money, but it was a good car. I think it had done 100 and maybe 20 or 40,000 Ks. I'd done a few Ks, but really tidy car. And it's a shame because we completely, William Dunn from Was Grunt Performance, now Mill Dunn Motorsport, William just took the car and he said, right, we're going to build it as an improved production. Because I wasn't sure whether to turbo and just do a track car or what, I wasn't sure. And he said, we'll build it to at least a specification, and then if you want to sell it, you can move on. And he knew he was getting me sucked in by that stage. And before I know it, the car's built and I'm getting my licence and all that sort of stuff. So it sort of just, it didn't happen by accident, but I guess I got pushed the right way, which was the right way to do it, I think. And certainly it's been great, yeah. And luckily, thanks to Liam and Grovesy, who sort of, not persuaded me, but just sort of pushed me in the right direction, I guess. So, yeah, that was pretty much it.
And was there a moment on track where you 100% knew that you wanted to race full time?
I guess I don't race full time, but to do the circuit championship, I think it was probably once I took the car out for the first time. We did a sprint meet at Phillip Island. I hadn't driven the car before, and I didn't know what to expect, to be honest. And once I got out, and I mean, it's loud, it's brash, it's a fairly, it's compared to the Subaru, which had power steering and a few things. I mean, the Subaru was a bit loud, but not like this. Once I got it out on the track, I thought, oh, this is fun. I want to do this. So then I had to go and get my licence, and then I did my first race meet. I think it was Sandown, probably it was only maybe a month or two after that. Yeah.
And what did you think of Sandown the first time you raced around there? Because I know I loved it.
I'm not a big fan of Sandown. I think we've had this conversation purely because initially I liked it, definitely, but I find with Sandown, my car, I have similar weight to the RX7s, similar power, but they're a couple of 100 kilos lighter. And a track like Sandown, the cars that I usually would be competitive with at other tracks, I find probably I just can't compete. And I find with Sandown, I always drive the wheels off a car. Whenever I've had a prang or hit a wall, it's always been Sandown, and it's because I'm trying too hard. And generally the other tracks, I might have a spin occasionally, but rarely do I come together or hit a wall. So I think that's probably why I don't tend to go there very often. Yeah.
I mean, when you race at the circuit like Phillip Island, you've got the whole world, the track's wide, there's lots of runoff, there's not much room for error. If you go off the track, you're going to get stuck in the wet grass, but yeah, the walls are pretty far away.
Yeah, there's a couple of spots where they're not, but generally, I probably like that a bit about Phillip Island. It's more the fact that Phillip Island's got faster corners, apart from turn 4 and 9, everything else is quite fast, and that really suits my car. So I've got a great handling car, so that really makes a difference that I can really carry corner speed, and that's probably my aim at the moment. It's just trying to build on that. Whereas Sandown, it's really hard with two really slow corners on the two big long straights. The handling doesn't help me much. Needs more horsepower.
So even if you go through, say, the last corner quicker than the RX-7s, they'll catch you straight back up?
Oh, it's just they've got lower down just without the weight. As I said, roughly a couple 100 kilos less. So they just get on it so much quicker. It takes me a while to wind up. It's almost like I need half a gear between second and third, but then I'm no good for the rest of it. So yeah.
Yeah, Sandown is definitely a tricky track in itself, but if you got to improve production, the classing's a little bit weird, I guess, because if you're up against RX7s, their weight's different and you've got more power, so sometimes it doesn't always work in your favour.
And also, most of the guys winning that category now are driving 6-litre V8s, and that's hard to compete at just about any track now with what I've got. So hopefully one day they'll sort of say, righto, well, let's keep these cars relevant. Let's find a way to give them a bit more power, or turbo them without restrictors, or add another rotor or something, because it's starting to get a bit away from us now.
Yeah, and what would you say about Winton? Would you call that the great equaliser in a way?
Yeah, definitely. Winton's a great track. I was only there last Wednesday doing practice day, but I like Winton. I've probably done more laps at Winton than any other track, and it is a bit of an equaliser. You can have all the power in the world, but when you go up through the back of Winton, where it's a lot of tight corners, it's that can really bring people undone as well. So for some reason, I seem to miss Winton. I raced there last year. I missed the year before because I was away. I'm going to be away this year, so I'm going to be in Japan when the Winton round is on. So I'm actually annoyed that I'm going to miss it because I like racing there.
Yeah, fair enough. And I noticed on my calendar this year that there's a lot of Phillip Island races. Is it the same with RX8?
We do 2 rounds at Phillip Island. So generally the rule is we'll do 2 Sandown, 2 Phillip Island and 1 at Winton. But I'm hoping, it looks like someone's penciled in Calder Park at the end of the year. So I think you've got the same on your calendar. Yeah. So I'm hoping to I haven't raced it from Calder Park. I did my OLT licence test there and I didn't mind it. So I'd like to actually go there and have a bit of a crack, a little bit closer to home too.
Yeah, I've always been racing in Melbourne from go-karts to race cars. So from Bendigo, it's always on the way depending on which way you go. So as a little boy, I looked up to the circuit. I've always thought, I want to race there. I don't want to drive all the way to Melbourne. So if I could race at Calder Park, I think it would be pretty special. Yeah,
definitely. And I spent a lot of time at Calder Park years ago. I used to pit crew for John Faulkner, who ended up running V8 supercars, but he was running Auscars and NASCARs then, and so I spent a lot of time at Calder. We mainly raced there unless we were racing at Adelaide once a year or Gold Coast. So that was sort of my first foot in the water, toe in the water, being involved in sort of motor racing, and I really liked being around the team and that sort of thing, and now I get to be the driver, which is better.
Yeah. You mentioned that he raced in Adelaide and Gold Coast. Have you ever raced anywhere else other than Victoria?
Yeah. First time out, and I'm trying to think the year, I think it was 2018, so it was before COVID. I raced at Bathurst and did the combined sedans, so that was sports sedans and improved production. And that was, that's just a magical place. Tough track. You've got to have your wits about you, and I certainly did. I probably could have been a lot faster, but there's walls everywhere, so you've got to respect it. And then later that year, later or early, I can't remember which. I think it was later that year. We did, or maybe early the year after. We did a round at Tailem Bend. It would have been later because it was the Nationals. So yeah, it would have been not much after that. We did Tailem Bend Nationals for improved production, and and that was great. Tailem Bend's just a fantastic facility and a good circuit. I think most of our tracks, as you know, usually around 11 or 12 corners. I think it's 18 at Tailem Bend, so it's quite a technical track, but a lot of speed, a lot of faster corners as well. So I quite enjoyed that.
Yeah, one thing I was told about Bathurst is because when you're there's a lot of pressure because it's a street circuit. They have to close off the road and they've got to run on a certain time schedule. You sometimes, depending if the session gets red flagged, you only get 1 or 2 laps. So is it important to make sure you're practicing, you get the maximum out of the track?
Yeah, we didn't. We had, I'm trying to think, going back a few years now, but one of our sessions did get red flagged, but we only missed maybe a couple of laps. I think it might have been qualifying from memory, which, that was our practice. There was no practicing before qualifying. We went straight out and qualified, and then every time I went out, I guess I got quicker and quicker, but, it's one of those tracks, again, you treat it with respect and you I guess if you crash too, you really wreck that for everyone else if you're stuck over the top somewhere. So they've got to get you out somehow. So you don't want to do that either. So.
Yeah. And on your first push lap around Bathurst, coming on the brakes into the chase, did you feel a little bit nervous going from 200 and maybe 200 and something to
240? I think. At the end of the coming up to the chase. No, not really. My car brakes really well. I guess I just didn't know how hard to brake.
Yeah.
And how much speed I could carry through there. And I'm sure I could probably nearly go through there flat out, but I'm not brave enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those that bend of the chase. I reckon. I was on slicks because we weren't racing in. We were racing in a combined category, so the sports sedans are allowed to run slicks. So I ran slicks, but. Yeah, maybe I could have gone through there flat out, but I wasn't prepared to give it a go. I felt comfortable with what I was doing and seemed okay. So,
And that's fair enough. Like your first time at Bathurst, you're not gonna go out there and try. Well, you obviously are gonna try to win, but you're not gonna try and push super hard straight away because of how close the walls are. You got to get a feel for it. So you definitely found it tricky. I'm guessing. Your first time.
It's funny because everyone said to me, some people would say, I'm not sure if I can say this, but you'll shit yourself going down through the dipper. And I had a lot of people, people in your ear saying this and saying that. And people who've raced there before, and you think, oh, yeah, well, I'll take that advice. They've been there, I haven't. But I love going down through the dipper. That was my favourite part of the track. When you've got a car that handles really well, that is actually awesome going down through there.
Yeah.
So up over Skyline, down through the dipper, and I really enjoyed it. Some of the surprising bits I felt were more about how to get the right line and where best to be on the track. So coming out of the cutting up through sort of Sulman and Reed Park, it's, to me, it's probably not it didn't feel like a dangerous part of the track, but it was just hard to get the maximum sort of speed, to get the right line. And everyone said you've got to aim for the grate before you go up and over McPhillamy, and then just trying to find it when you haven't been there before.
Yeah.
It takes you a few laps to work out where it is. And so, and the other one I found, you think Forest Elbow, to me, most people, you look at it on TV and it just looks like a 90-degree bend, but it's actually a lot more than that in a car. It feels like you're sort of coming down, almost corkscrewing back on yourself a bit.
Yeah.
And so then you got the push out towards the wall where it feels like it's sort of sucking you into it. But that was a lot trickier corner. Not that I have any moments there or anything, but I just felt it was a harder corner than I expected watching it on TV to get right. And
as we saw, this was many, many, many years ago, but before that, the exit wall there, Dick Johnson was actually a victim. He got sucked out and he ended up in the trees down there. So
that's right. Yeah.
It is a very tricky corner because of the undulation and I guess the camber of the corner too. You get thrown to the outside and it's very hard. You got to get closest to the wall as you can, but you don't want to be hitting it.
And it drops away pretty quick, so you can build speed pretty quick out of there. So definitely a tricky corner.
And was there any other tracks in Australia or even New Zealand that you've went to that you really like?
I haven't raced in New Zealand, but Grovesy and I were on holiday over at, we were staying in Wanaka, just sort of not far from Queenstown. And so we'd been skiing down there, up at Cardrona and Treble Cone and whatnot. And we took a day out to go to Highlands Motorsport Park, which is I think it's in Cromwell, it's a little town it's near, and beautiful track. Just felt like you're in Europe somewhere, just the trees and whatnot around it. It's just stunning. So we did, I can't remember how many laps, might have been about 8 laps in a Radical, which was fun.
Yeah.
That was my first sort of drive of a car with paddle shift. So, just hold your foot flat and just keep grabbing gears. It sort of felt a bit like a PlayStation game.
Yeah.
But yeah, awesome track. And no, we didn't do the full track. I think they've got a couple of longer tracks for GT cars and that sort of thing. But we did probably about a similar sized track maybe to somewhere between Phillip Island and Winton.
Yeah, and the Radicals would be running an older type system in them. They wouldn't be running a bit of an analogue. So did you know how quick you were going and stuff like that?
I don't remember. I don't know if it did have a Motec dash in it or something like that. I can't remember if it even had a speedo or whether I was even looking. I was probably concentrating on keeping it on the track. So from that point of view, no, I don't know how fast. But it was good. The guy who actually, before we jumped in, he said, have you done anything like this before? And I think I'd done 1 or 2 seasons improved production, and Grovesy had done he was in his 4th or 5th season, and we just sort of said, yeah, we've got our licences in Australia and racing proof production. He said, oh, well, the thing you like about these is they've got aero, and it did feel like the car actually stuck to the track a lot better. So you could feel the aero working through corners and gripping. So yeah.
Was it a high-speed track? Were you able to hold some corners flat and get the real experience of aerodynamics?
Yeah, look, from memory, and again, this is a few years ago now, but there was a bit of both. There was high-speed corners and slow-speed corners as well. But I remember there was a kink through one of the straights, and you could just hold it flat through there and keep grabbing gears, and it just felt like it sucked down to the ground pretty well. So yeah.
And with any corners where you thought there is no way in my Mazda I could go this quick through it?
I didn't really give that a thought, to be honest. It just sort of, because this thing felt so different. It felt like I was sitting in a bathtub. I was lying down, my neck was sort of like this, and just a really weird. You're probably used to that driving EV, but for me, I'm sitting bolt upright in a RX8, so it really felt like a way different experience, and I found it really hard to get comfortable, ergonomically in the car compared to what I was used to. But yeah, it felt great. It was good. Yeah,
I know what you mean, because whenever I get in my Subaru, I tend to want to have the seat back because I have that feeling of lying backward in the car. But yeah, it can definitely be tricky switching from one to the other. And what was one main thing that you took from Radicals that you were able to put back into your RX8 racing?
Oh, I don't know. That's a curly one. I don't know if I really took anything back from it, because they're just such a different car. High revving. My car's high revving too, but for a normal internal combustion engine like these things to rev to whatever it was, nearly 10 grand or 11 grand or something, and it was just such a different experience. I probably couldn't translate, and really only did, I can't remember how many laps, might have been 8, so it was over like that. So I'll have to go and do it again and probably think more about it next time. Yeah,
and it's definitely tricky when you're racing something that quick and then you hop back into your RX8, but it definitely felt slower the first time you jumped back in the RX8? Or did you feel like just back to normal?
I think it's more analogue in the RX8, because back then, not that Radicals don't have power steering, but they're much lighter, whereas my car didn't have power steering then, so it's heavy. I run a dog box, so it's manual dog box, and just everything's just analogue, and so the Radical felt easier to drive, I guess, if you want to compare the two, because it was just keep grabbing gears and then just clutch in and downshift with the left pedal, and whereas mine, it's just rowing through the gears and smashing them through the dog box, and so I'm hoping to get where our class has allowed sequential boxes, so we're hoping to get a sequential box in it towards the end of this year, so I think that'll make it a bit more pleasant to drive.
Yeah, I think it would. Would you put in paddles or would you put the stick?
No, we have to stick with the stick, so yeah. But I've also since put power steering on the car. John Perkins from Kyneton, who builds our engines, John was able to figure out how to get the Motec to talk to the power steering module in the RX8, so that's great. That's transformed the car.
Yeah.
Because it was pretty heavy. It was just the old rack with the guts taken out of it, and it was heavy as anything on some tracks. But yeah, now it's quite nice.
So did you feel like you were struggling maybe a bit physically on previous tracks before you had the power steering, or did the power steering just make it better to drive?
Just makes it better to drive. I actually, we were at Winton one day and my car died, and it was a practice day, track day, and it was early in the day, so Grovesy said he's now running a Mazda 3 Mark car. He said, you better have a drive of this. So when I drove that with power steering, I thought, how good's this? The race car with power steering, I didn't know any different.
Yeah.
But I just thought how much nicer it was. And probably where I used to find it hard was turn 12 at Phillip Island, where you're going through there pretty quick. You'd lean on it, and just trying to muscle it through that corner was quite difficult with that power steering. You get through, but it was so much better with power steering now. You can actually, and turn-in's a bit sharper as well, so it's probably a better car for it.
Yeah. One thing I do like about the Formula Vs are, even though they're not power steering, the cars are so light that we don't need it.
Yeah.
If we had power steering, we'd probably struggle because we'd be fighting the wheel because it'd be too light. So
and you'd be direct, I'm assuming. Lock to lock would be that.
Yeah. It's almost a bit like a go-kart where you just sort of point and turn.
Yeah.
Where obviously in a car, there's a bit. Sometimes you got to put a bit of, not too much.
Probably tracks like Winton, through turn say 7 through to 9, where they're quite, you're using a lot of lock through there, so and a bit lower speed. That's where you probably really like the power steering, because you can just sort of and turn in quicker because it's just everything's faster. So
most definitely. And when you're racing without power steering, after a while it can get a little bit fatiguing. But luckily in state series we don't do too many laps.
We don't do enough laps. Yeah.
We do about 6 in our category. I'm not sure what you guys get.
We're 8 to 10.
Yeah.
So usually we'll have 2 8-lappers and then a 10 at the end of the day. So unless they're running behind time, if they've had to dig a few cars out of sand traps and things, they'll drop us back to 8 in the last one. But usually 8's the minimum, yeah.
Well, like I said, because we're so light, they can pretty much just pick us up and throw us. So, we normally get under racing and then there'll be another accident. So, we do enjoy it. But have you ever been overseas and driven anything?
Yeah, actually, sorry, I'll tell a lie. I have. I got to drive a NASCAR at Vegas. It was the Richard Petty experience, and I remember I was with a bunch of Mazda dealers, and we're in a bus heading in there, and I could see the flat track there, and there's Lamborghinis and Ferraris and McLarens and all this stuff driving around. I'm thinking, I wish I was out there doing that. And then they suited, we had to go through a bit of instruction. They suited us up, and I hadn't raced at that stage. I'd driven the Subaru in track days and whatnot, but suited us up, and we went out there, and I couldn't believe how difficult it was to drive a NASCAR, and we weren't mucking around. I mean, we weren't going the speeds. I think they do 200 mile an hour. I think I got to about can't remember the number, 136 rings a bell. I think it was just under 240 k's an hour. And I was really quite surprised that, it's a lot harder than what it looks.
Yeah. Well, NASCAR does give the perception just roll off and turn left and get back on the power. But was it harder turning the corner or getting on the power?
The corners weren't bad through the corners. The exit you noticed because the wall just sucked you into it like a big magnet. But I found them hard going straight because they just wanted to keep turning left. So just trying to keep the thing straight was harder than what you think. So they're just they're not an easy car to drive in my mind.
Yeah. Well, I don't think most of my race cars they're always a little bit out of alignment. So always got a little bit of 5-degree right end down or something.
I think there's a running more like feels like about 20 degrees.
Yeah.
It was good fun though. I really enjoyed the experience, and it was well worth doing. And afterwards, I was actually glad I did that and not drove the flat track cars. I thought it was a really good experience. Something you can't do in Australia really easily either. Yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously, unless they were to resurface Calder Park, which I don't think they've got the budget for, I don't think we'd ever see Oz cars and NAS cars there again.
I doubt it. Yeah, I doubt it. But but hopefully we get to race there at the end of the year on the main circuit as well. It'd be good.
Yeah, it would definitely be great to race something like even the Formula Vs are pretty. I don't know how we would go with all the bumps and stuff. I know the bigger cars might handle it a bit better.
I think I'll be okay. My car should be okay, I reckon. But I have just stiffened it, so that might make a difference. But I'll put new shocks in that work better, so who knows? Yeah, we'll have to find out.
I've got to get my suspension running first.
You got a few broken bits, haven't you?
Oh yeah, always. And then today we found out there was some things that had to be changed, but we press on and hopefully we'll get back on track for next round. But I've got another question for you. Have you ever been to somewhere like Le Mans, or have you ever sat down and watched the Bathurst 1000 from the track?
No, I've been to Bathurst 12 hour. That was the first time I ever went there actually, and really enjoyed that. And then I actually found myself racing there the following year. So it might have been the following year, 2 years later, I think. But to actually be there a couple of years since my first visit, and I really enjoyed the 12 hour. I mean, the fact that it goes all day, and we got there at the start of the day, watched the start, and pitch black at the time when they started. It's an awesome race. I'd love to go to the Bathurst 1000, but I watch it religiously on TV every year. It's one of my favourite races to watch.
We all sit down and watch it on the TV, but sometimes in person it can be a little bit hard to get to the track. What about Grand Prix in Melbourne or Adelaide?
Been to the Grand Prix in Melbourne a few times. Adelaide, never been there, no. But or for Clipsal either, or whatever they call it now. But the V8's over there, that'd be a good event. But been to the Grand Prix in Melbourne, guessing about half a dozen times.
Yeah. I've only been there once before, and I'm planning on going this weekend.
Did you get tickets?
I only got Friday, general admission, so
That's okay.
hopefully we can go there and have a bit of fun, see what we can do. And
I think Thursday, Friday can be just as much fun. You'll see a lot of practice and whatnot. You'll still see a lot of stuff. You won't see the race, but you'll see a lot of stuff. It's a great event.
Well, one time, I think when we went there the first time, we turned up at about 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, and they had Ferraris just driving around the circuit, doing their thing.
That's great. Yeah, there's just stuff on all the time. So that's if you love cars, I think Grand Prix is excellent. Yeah, great event.
And let's have a look at your car collection here. What do you got here?
I've got some unusual ones. This is only a very small part of it, but
do you want to have a quick look?
Yeah, that's a 1984 B2000 Ute. They're a bit dirty and dusty. They're just at charges at the moment, so get them fired up. Tend to not drive them much in summer because it's just How does it run though? Oh, this is perfect. Yeah, it's really neat and tidy. We just I bought it off a mate of mine and just gave it a tidy up, so it's sort of come up like new really. I tend to happen to I stumble across most of these. This one bought on a whim at an auction, so I'm still working out what I want to do with that. That's a 66 Oldsmobile Toronado. Unusual car, which is probably what drew me to it. It's a big block V8, north-south engine, but but it's front-wheel drive, so it runs a gearbox next to the engine and chain driven between the two. So I don't know, I was just a bit intrigued by it. The Mustang, which is a 66 as well. I bought that up. Should have watched them. I bought that off a mate of mine who traded it in actually at his dealership in Traralgon. So that was 5 or 6 years ago. The little 1500 needs a tyre. It's got a flat in the back, but another bloke I know who's got a car yard traded that in and just ran it by me one day, and I said, yeah, I'll buy that. And then the Subaru is the one that started me off wanting to race cars. So that's just a little bolting roll cage and harnesses. And
obviously this was the one that started your racing. And have you done much to it? Did you do all the work to it?
No, well, when I bought it was pretty much a rally car, so it was fairly high. So it had DMS rally suspension in it, so I got a hold of some DMS tarmac stuff and upgraded the brakes, put the bigger wheels on it so I can get bigger tyres, and stripped out the interior just to try and lose a few kilos. So that's about it. There's stock standard engine. But that's a fun little car to drive. Yeah.
And, being the owner of Bendigo Mazda, he does have an RX8, but it's not here currently. It's kept in a different location.
Yeah, well, that's run by the team. So William at Mildun Motorsport, he keeps that. And obviously, whenever I take it out, it's always got to get stuff done to it, so it's easier for him to house it and do all that. No, those guys do a great job of it. So, I've got another RX8, which is in the showroom at work, and William's actually got one that he's put a 6-litre V8 in as well. We're waiting to get engineered. So RX2 I'm restoring and a couple of RX7. So it's a mainly Mazda theme, I guess. Yeah.
So it's kind of fitting that you're the owner of Bendigo Mazda as well?
Yeah, my first car was an RX7, so I'm sort of, love the Mazda brand.
And how did you, come about Bendigo Mazda? Did you just find it that you wanted to own Bendigo Mazda because you felt such a strong connection with the brand?
That helped. I actually, I was at Holden at the time, so I was sales manager at the Holden dealership, and I've got a couple of partners in the business. They bought Bendigo Mazda. No one knew it was even for sale, and then they rang me to come in and be a part of the business and run it. So that was about 18 years ago now, so I've been there that long, and it was pretty fitting that I liked the Mazda brand and liked the cars, and as I said, my first car was an RX-7, so I've always had a close, passion for them.
Yeah, obviously RX-8s and RX-7s are a big part of people's childhoods because they're a big fan of what they call the JDM brand. Mm-hmm. So I think it's the Japanese domestic market, so all imports and fancy Japanese cars.
Well, the good thing, the ones, generally all those cars came out here as actual Mazda market cars, Australian market cars as well. So there's a big scene in Japan, obviously, with that JDM market stuff as well. So, I just like them. I like the rotaries. I always like the rotaries. So.
Yeah. How do you feel about it coming back into, I think it's SUVs now?
Yeah, well, there's I don't even know if we're getting it in Australia. I know there's hope, but it's an electric car that will have a single rotor. I think it's about 800cc single rotor rotary engine. That will just drive a generator to charge the batteries effectively. So I think it's a great idea and a great concept. And by all accounts, the rotary engine is very efficient in that sort of capacity as a generator. So unfortunately, when you've got them in a road car and they're driving the wheels, everyone tends to put their foot down because they want it to rev to the red line, so they're not that efficient when you do that.
Yeah, so, rotaries are pretty cool. Have you ever built one yourself or had a look at one getting built?
I've seen it on videos on YouTube and that sort of stuff. I've had one apart and I've seen the insides of several. But no, I've actually never been there when someone's built one. I must do that one day.
They're pretty incredible.
Yeah.
When you look at them, because they're just a weird design, and the guys at Mazda in Japan obviously did a really good job at designing them, because they have been in some forms a reliable transport for most people.
Yeah. They're probably there's a few. I guess some of the early ones had their reliability issues, but I look at my race car and that's. I'm just trying to think how many seasons. I'm coming into my third season out of that one engine. It's never been out, hasn't been touched. They're relatively cheap to rebuild. I mean, if you had a V8, 6-litre V8 Commodore, to rebuild that versus my engine, it's so much cheaper.
Yeah.
Provided a seal doesn't let go and damage one of the housings. But even then, they're not too bad. So
you're talking about more general rebuilds?
Give it a tidy up, new seals and whatnot, and a tidy up. They're pretty reasonable. So we're lucky. John Perkins builds our engines. He's only 45 minutes down the road in Kyneton, and John's actually pretty clever with that sort of stuff as well. So
yeah, that's pretty cool. And obviously, your man cave's pretty cool here. You've just collected lots of stuff over the years. You've got a Alan Moffat poster I've just seen over there.
Yeah, I just keep an eye out for auction stuff, and a lot of it's all bought online or whatnot, but yeah, I'll just keep an eye out. When I saw that Alan Moffat thing, I thought, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I do have an item somewhere signed by Moffat that a mate of mine got me, and I'm pretty sure that's his genuine signature, so it matches perfectly. But yeah, just stuff like that. If I see it pop up, I'll see if I can get hold of it.
Yeah, and what's with the plane over here? Is there any...
I was just going to string it up from the roof one day. I haven't got around to it yet.
Is there any significance, though, that you like about it?
Just one of the old Spitfires. I think they're a cool old plane. And yeah, I just think I saw the model one day and I thought I'll try and tackle building it, which I did. So yeah, it was good.
Yeah, we were talking about these cars over here. Have you done much engine modifications to any of them to make them sound a bit better, or...?
Not really, no. That's stock. They're all pretty stock, actually. Yeah.
This is pretty cool, though.
Yeah.
I am a Ford man, so I do.
Yeah.
I do like
That's
a good...
just a stock 289. Sorry, it's dirty.
That's...
I use them when I can, so I don't like trailer queens if the paint's not perfect on this car. It's just a good usable classic car that you can use regularly.
Yeah, I do really like the look of it. Obviously, inside interior looks original.
It is, yeah. It's mostly original. It's an unusual one because it's two-tone, this one, so it's an unusual colour outside. It's Ember Glow. They only made it in this year, in 1966. And the interior is Ember Glow and Parchment. Again, only made in this year, and it's rare to see the two-tone. And it's also got the full door trims and full console.
Oh, wow, yeah.
It's got a console that sits over the full console there. That's an aftermarket item, but the full console runs right through the middle of the seats. So,
yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, the only thing I've really done to it's put a
mini lights
on it, and it's a old school looking stereo, but just so I can have a radio in it, and it's got Bluetooth, but it's all you can't really notice. It looks like a...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've seen that. That looks pretty cool.
I've hardly driven it. It needs some work, so I've just got to get around to getting it running. I think it's done a fuel pump, so I parked it here and it's done a fuel pump, I think. So I've just got to get around to fixing that and work out what I'm going to do with it.
Yeah, it is a pretty cool car. And when did you say that you bought this again?
I don't know, a couple of years ago.
A couple of years ago, yeah. Yeah, well, it does look beautiful. And any of these imported, or are they all just Australian?
Well, these are both left-hand drive, so they're both imported. The rest, the Subaru was a Japanese import.
Yeah, but that's still right-hand drive, so that doesn't matter.
Yeah, and everything else I've got Australian market, so yeah.
I do like the look of this one here, the 1200.
These were designed by an Italian designer for Alfa Romeo.
Oh, yeah.
And then Alfa Romeo didn't want it, so they must have just put it out to market, and Mazda grabbed it. So this car, the thing I like about this car is it's the car that put Mazda on the map. So this is the car that really got sales for Mazda in Australia and got them going. So, I think they're quite a pretty little car for today. It's a 1967, I think. So, for the age of it, quite tall sort of glass house in and thin pillars, and very typical of the Italian designs at the time. It
does look very Alfa Romeo Fiat design.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, but it does obviously have a Mazda touch to it, so it does look brilliant.
I should have cleaned it though. It's a bit filthy at the moment. Well, they all are.
I just noticed on the windscreen over there it says "Wash me, please."
Yeah, that's on the yeah. Someone put that there, but it's only dust. I'll just need to get out and drive them and blow it off. So yeah.
Yeah. So when's the Subaru gonna go? When's the owner coming to pick it up?
He's got to extend his shed, so just waiting for him to come back to me on that. And said I'm happy to hang on it for a while. So
you're trying to restore this and
yeah. So the one just beside us here, the yellow PE, that's sort of my COVID project. So that's the one I did in COVID. Still got a couple of things left to do on that, and then I'll get onto this, and then I've got a KX 250 over there that I'll get onto.
So you got a few little projects here and there to do?
Yeah, it just gives me something to tinker with. It doesn't matter how long it takes. I can take 5 years, or I can do it in 5 months.
So what is the plan with this one? Just to clean it up and put it back together with a rebuild engine?
Yeah, just restore it pretty much as it is. So it's mostly all there, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem.
Is there much to replace on it?
Only a few rusty bits, like I've got new front guards and rear guard, seat trim, and just a few things like that I've got to replace, but most of it will clean up okay, so.
And you ever use this one much if you got to pick up something?
Oh, occasionally, but if you have a look, I've very powder coated the tray.
Oh, yeah.
And it's too good, I don't want to scratch it, so. So I use it as a workbench at the moment, but I need to clear all that off.
What have we got here? Suzuki fuel tank?
Well, that's the original tank on the PE, but it splits, so I bought an aluminium one and put it up, so.
It does look very similar, actually.
Yeah, it's exactly
except for the
same.
yellow. I think it's a little bit brighter, but
yeah. Well, it was really to match these side covers and the guards.
Yeah,
different yellows, so it probably matches them better than the plastic. But that plastic's just gone off in colour over the years, so yeah.
And the engine you redid yourself, is this the one you were talking about?
Yeah, I did the top end and just put new piston and rings, and the exhaust was torched, so I got a header pipe and then just tack welded it in and took it to an exhaust shop to finish welding that up. And what else? Put new carby on it because the other carby was just wrecked. It had fuel in it for years and just wrecked it. And just a lot of it was stripped down to a frame, repainted the frame, and just pretty much just cleaned everything up and tied it up. I just got to fix the rear brakes and chain and a few things, and just about there.
Yeah. So you into a bit of motorbike riding too?
I used to be. I don't do a lot of it these days. Yeah, but I used to ride dirt bikes. It's more push bikes now.
Yeah. So you obviously actually I've got that same poster, the one up there, the car sales one.
Oh, have you?
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously you've got a few cool things in here, and actually I do like that Castrol.
Yeah. If anyone finds anything oil or petrol related, they usually give me a yell. So yeah.
Yeah, as you can see, he's also got the Valvoline banner up there, and you've got Mercedes sign there, Mazda. You got it all pretty sorted out over here.
Yeah, it's just a good little spot.
Yeah, I've got a simulator. Have you ever been on a simulator?
Years ago, I haven't been on one. Oh, actually, yeah, years ago. Remember the exhaust place up at Superpower Exhaust in Morong Road? he had one out the back there, and he'd have nights, and you could go and drive, and yeah, it was really good. That was 10 years ago. So yeah, I don't remember much about it. I found it really hard to just keep the car on the track. We were driving Bathurst, and compared to a real race car, these things just seem to spin at the drop of a hat.
Well, you got to think they are game developers. Nothing against them, but they probably don't drive. To be honest, they develop it and then get a driver to look at it. So it is hard to tell because every driver is different. So you can't base a car off a few drivers. But
I did actually. I did get iRace and just hooked it up to my son's computer at home with a basic pedal and steering wheel. So when before I did Bathurst, I actually learnt the track on iRace. Just to get a feel for where the corners were and what you look at through the windscreen, and actually was a bit of a help, I reckon.
Yeah, I obviously have a simulator because we were just talking about it. Mine's pretty much the same thing. It's like a metal frame with a seat on it and a steering wheel, and I use iRacing to practice the tracks before I go there in real life. Unfortunately, though, they don't have an Impreza that I can just jump in. But yeah, I race a few different programs these days. They've got heaps of other ones that we can try, so I really do enjoy it.
Yeah, I don't even have a computer at home, so my son has, so I've got to go and kick him out of his room and set it up there. So I generally don't, but my goal is I'd like to set up a sim down here, just so more so myself and my mates can get in and have a bit of fun with it.
Yeah. Would you go for full out proper one, or just a little muck around one?
Don't know yet. Might go a little bit out. We'll see.
And is there anything else that we haven't really talked about that you'd like to mention?
No, I think you've been pretty covered it all, I think. Yeah. I've got a very understanding wife. She lets me do all this stuff, so better give her a few kudos over that. So.
And if you had a question for your 16-year-old self, what would it be? Oh, sorry. If you could tell your 16-year-old self anything, what advice would you give him?
Yeah, probably. I wished I'd started racing earlier. Yeah, at a younger age. I'm probably different now, where I'm financially secure, so I can do it and afford to do it. Whereas, at a younger age, it's harder to do that. But you're a bit more. You probably take more risks, and reflexes are better and all that sort of stuff. So I think it'd be better if I'd started a bit earlier.
Yeah, I know if I don't make it in motorsport, I won't be financially secure, but if I do make it, I hope so.
I hope you do, mate. Well done. Yeah.
Thank you, and thanks everyone for watching. This has been Richard Opie, and thanks for watching.